everything in frame here. This is the sketch of where I plan to put things so far this year in the vegetable garden area. And this often changes once the season starts and I pick up other plants here or there, and my amount of what I seeded changes. Either something doesn't germinate as well or something I get a lot of. So this is just the basic plan for now. It is to scale. I will show you my the rest of my property and where like the fruit trees are and the nut trees and the berry patches and things. And in the rest of it, even though it's on grid paper, it's not as much to scale, but this is like every square on here is a foot. And I do that just to help me make sure that I am leaving enough space for everything that I want to put in. So, and I just realized, see, it changes because I think of things that I forget. And I just realized I've already forgotten that I was gonna put in peanuts. And so now I have to figure out where they're gonna go. Have an empty bed right here, but it's small. I might put it in that big one right there. So that just is how it goes. These squares and rectangles are raised beds. This one that's off by itself is a taller potato bed. And these lines you see right here are existing cattle panel trellises that I use every year. And this is a cattle panel arch. So just to walk you through where everything's gonna be this year, I'm gonna start over here. The chicken fence is currently around this area, and I've decided to leave this for fall. So I will have just fall things and broccoli and cabbage and kale and stuff like that going on here. That way I can leave them digging the beds a little bit longer. Again, I always leave something empty because I always forget something. This is an asparagus bed. When we moved in, the only thing out here, this is all grass, but these two beds were here and they were very overgrown with nothing except that this one had half a thing of asparagus. And I had planted some strawberries in the other half because those are good companion plants. And now the asparagus has spread enough to fill that bed. And I'm just gonna leave that there because that is a perennial crop that you don't move. Last year I had herbs in here and I decided to put them in some boxes this year. I'm leaving any perennial herbs that reseeded themselves, like my thyme and things that stayed alive. But I'm gonna put some other herbs in here that I don't expect to reseed or live through the winter, like parsley and basil and things like that. Normally I plant them in ground. I just decided to put them in the boxes this year because I had the space. This right here, the same color as this, it's because it's gonna be fall, and jicama. Jicama I have to plant early, it grows most of the season, but right about the time it's time to plant fall crops, I have it ready. So asparagus, herbs, fall jicama. Over here I'm gonna put some lettuces in. I don't dedicate a whole lot of space to lettuce because it doesn't grow well here. I try to grow it because we eat a lot of it, but our springs are not a gentle increase in temperature, and our falls are not a gentle decrease. We very much have up and down. And so you'll plant something, it'll start doing well as far as like lettuces and things like that. It'll start doing really well, and then we'll have a day of 80 degrees and it bolts or gets bitter. And then 2 days later you have a freeze and it dies anyway because it's frozen. So I just am gonna do one little space, and I'm gonna do several different types in there. In this box over here, I have some root crops like radishes and beets and turnips. This box here is strawberries, and those are already there. A long time ago, I had strawberries in this box, and I took the runners. There was like 2 types here, and then I had a different type here, and I just took the runners from those and planted them here. So this is just a mix of June-bearing and ever-bearing and all like 3 or 4 different types of strawberries, and I'm just leaving those that are already there. Right here are 2, these are 12 foot by 4 foot. Oh, this must be a square for every 2 feet because these are 4 foot by 12 foot beds. Anyways, sweet peppers on this side and hot peppers on this side. Again, peppers are something I normally grow on the ground, but the way I was moving things and rotating crops this year, it just worked out better to put them in the boxes. Moving over here, back in the back row, this is an open area where I will put our sweet corn for fresh eating. I have put corn here in the past, but a mix of them, and I want more space to just do the fresh eating one this year. So I'm gonna put that over there. The trellis this year, I'm gonna grow cherry tomatoes on. Last year, they had green beans. The year before that, they had pickling cucumbers. I've grown a lot of things on the trellises. This year I'm just gonna put my cherry tomatoes there. And also right here I have a very small trellis, and right here I have a very small trellis. This is an arch one as well. This is just like a 5-foot straight up one. I don't know what I'm putting on those yet. Maybe excess something else, but I'm gonna put all my cherry tomatoes on there. They tend to keep growing all season, and so it's nice to have the space to put them up over the top and kind of drape them that way. Along these cattle panels, I am putting peas. So these will be one of the first things that I'm planting this year. I will plant a whole row of the sugar snap peas and then a row of like fresh peas or snow peas, combination thereof actually, for the rest of our eating. But sugar snap peas are one of our favorite ways to eat them. In here, I'm putting cucumbers. I'm gonna do 3 rows of pickling cucumbers because I do a year's worth of pickles and a year's worth of relish and a year's worth of sweet pickles in addition to the dill pickles. So a lot of pickling peppers. This one row I'm gonna do slicing cucumbers. That'll be a variety of types. I love fresh cucumber, but you can only eat so many, you know what I'm saying? And they don't really preserve well, although I am gonna try to freeze dry some and see how they do because I've heard they're a good snack. And in addition to that, I could put them like in my water because I like cucumber water, things like that. So in the future, if that does work out well in the future, I might have more rows of slicing cucumbers. This is a big open space right here. And last year I did all peppers and herbs in here and 1 row of yellow beans. So this year I'm kind of sectioning it off. I'm gonna do 2 types of corn here. This is the field corn I grow for my chickens, Trucker's Yellow Dent corn. And this is going to be ornamental corn for fall decoration. A couple of rows of potatoes. These are long rows right here, by the way. And a row of onions. There might be 2. It depends on how much I can fit out there. This open space here, I will be putting watermelon this year. This is where I grew the corn last year. So this will be watermelon this year. I might extend it out here because it does need a little more room once I get this part planted, just so that I know that I have the space. This is a section of open space here too that I'm gonna combine pumpkins and bush beans. Normally I grow, for green beans, I grow Blue Lake pole beans. This year I just didn't have the pole space for it, and so I decided just to grab some bush version of the same bean to plant this year. We'll see how that goes. And I also always plant the Boer de Rokengort yellow wax beans. If you saw my seed haul video, I've talked about those for several years. Love them. And I'm just going to interplant those with all the pumpkins and squashes. We don't eat a lot of pumpkin and squash, but I love to decorate with a ton of them. And it gets expensive really, really fast. So we'll see how that goes this year. It's quite a big space, so I may have this extra over here for the watermelon to extend it into. These rows right here are the tomatoes. So I have a row of beefsteak because I will always plant those. They're my favorite. This one I can't decide if I'm gonna do another row of beefsteak or a row of momatoros. Momatoros are a hybrid slicing tomato. They are very good. They're very similar to a beefsteak, but they're very disease resistant. They have a more uniform kind of round shape, whereas beefsteaks can be more fluted. I'll probably grow a second row of momatoros there. And here I have 3 rows of Amish paste tomatoes because those are my favorite paste tomatoes, and I do can all of our tomato products except for the very little bit of tomato paste that we use each year. I can diced tomatoes, I can tomato sauce, I make our own ketchup. I don't do paste because I feel like it uses a ton of tomatoes for very little paste, and I don't actually use much tomato paste in my cooking, so not worth it to me. And then I always have a row of experimental tomatoes, which will be over here. This middle area, there's a tree, so I couldn't put a row in there. There's like a baby maple tree. And so I tend to just put extra flowers that I grow in there so it kind of attracts pollinators. I do plan this year to also add more flowers to the garden, and I'm just gonna tuck them everywhere. You know, like if I grow sweet peppers, I might put one on each end in the corners or something, and there'll just be a variety of pollinator attracting type things. Definitely, I already have some zinnias and things like that, so we'll see what actually ends up out there. But I'm planning on just kind of sticking them all over. and seeing how that goes. I have not yet planned where I'm gonna put my sunflowers. I also grow those for the chickens. And they're really huge and tend to need a row, like a stake. And so I tend to grow them on the end of a row, like one of these cattle panels, and tie it to the end. So I might plant one on the outside of that this year. So this is the vegetable garden plan. My property map with all the berry patches, the blueberries and the fruit trees and stuff like that, that is my basement. So I will pop down there and give you a quick look at that. It's a little bit darker down there, and that map has gotten messed up and is not as detailed and updated as this one, but I'll give you a quick little preview of what is out in the fruit section of the property. Okay, pay no attention to the messed up look of this. This is my basement. The lighting is not great. And this is a bunch of grid paper taped together that had to move from upstairs to downstairs, and in the process got all messed up. So this is the property map though, so that I can show you where the fruit stuff is. So this is the garden layout. I have not put the one I just showed you up yet. This is last year's, and I like to layer them on there so that I can remember what was planted there before, so I can keep track over time. So the chickens are up here, and then we have up this way is our blueberries, and then raspberries, and then blackberries. Those are not as close as they look on the map. They are, blackberries and raspberries need to be somewhat separated, and they are. Right there. Those are grapes, and right in this spot below them, what I don't have there yet is a really large strawberry patch, and I'm putting a few cut flowers there this year as well. And then over here, those are peaches, and then I also just added a plum and a nectarplum last year, so you can't see them. This diagonal line, blah, there is empty because there's a live electrical line that I can't plant around. When you get down here, these are all apple trees. Those two right there were the only pre-existing trees on the property, a pear and an apricot, which happen to be like the two that I don't eat. What I also have not yet put on here is that last year I added 2 pecan trees and a pomegranate, and there's some elderberries in here. This middle area is about, the middle of the apples anyway, is where I'm gonna be kind of building, very slowly building a fruit tree guild with an understory and all that. So down past the apples, we get down to the front of the property near the road, and there are cherry trees. Probably can't see under this table. We have 3 cherry trees, and then in here is a driveway. So this is being left alone for now because we might put a barn there someday. But that is all of the fruit. Not all of what I have planted right now, but that shows you just like where it is in relation to the garden and the property. Okay, and the last thing besides the garden plan are the goals for this year. And they're actually, I'm pretty simple on the goals this year. Mostly I'm just kind of keeping things the way they're going and just trying to be a little more on top of it. Last summer, I always underestimate how busy we're gonna be in the summer. And last summer was crazy. And this summer I'm trying to just know ahead of time it's gonna be crazy. My oldest is graduating and he'll be leaving. And so we have a trip to take for that. He's going across the country if everything works out. And I just want to be more realistic about the time I have and not think that I'm just going to be in the garden all day, every day, because I've got other things to do too. The other thing, let's see, be realistic, to have less waste, because things got a little crazy last year. And they're crazy every year. I did not get as many things preserved as I wanted. And so there was some things, especially my tomatoes, a lot of tomatoes went to waste. And I just wanna make sure that, one, I have everything prepped out there in plenty of time so that I can concentrate just on taking care of the plants and preserving food as it comes in, eating it fresh, preserving what we can't get to fresh because either we're busy or because you can only eat so many fresh tomatoes, you know what I'm saying? And in addition to using and preserving things on time, I'm fine with sharing and giving away some as well. But I just wanna be better about using, there's always gonna be some waste, but using like every scrap of food we grow out there. So that's really my main one this year, is staying more on top of it so that there's less waste. So no waste. be realistic. And then also I want to focus more on the berries and fruit tree area this year. I planted a lot of those right when we moved in because I knew that those took longer to produce. And some things are starting to produce. I mean, the blueberries have, the raspberries produce for a season. Blackberries got a disease and I had to take most of them out and I have to replant this year. But I kind of, because I really wanted to get, we had a bunch of other stuff to set up. We've had stuff we've had to do to the house. I'm big into the garden part. I kind of just planted them so that they could get started and haven't really been taking care of them. And I mean, they're fine, but I really want to be better this year about watering when they're needing it. I mean, I am partly subscribed to the theory that you want a strong tree, you kind of just put it out there and let it adapt to things. But I also know that I could get things more the way I want them if I'm making sure, like, we get 5 to 7 weeks in the middle of summer heat where we don't get rain, making sure I'm watering them every week during that time instead of once during that time like I have in the past. Making sure I'm weeding around there, especially the berries, the blueberries, the raspberries, the blackberries, the strawberries. Those get a lot of weeds and I know they get choked out in some nutrients and stuff. So I'm gonna try to stay on top of those. More just like doing the maintenance that they need when I've been ignoring them. I want to less ignore them. I don't really want to baby them, but I'm kind of referring to it as babying the fruit trees this year, and just giving them more attention and making them more of a priority than they have been. So those are all my goals really, besides just keeping up with things in the current garden that I have. I'm not expanding it this year so far. So I just, sorry, I was distracted because my son just texted me. I'm keeping it, I may add to it if I end up running out of space, but I'm trying to maintain just the size that we have right now. Having that more ready on planting day than it has been in the past, and babying those fruit trees out there. So simple goals this year, but really having more to do with maintaining, increasing the productivity, increasing the, I don't even know what the word is, like when you use what you have, more efficiency of dealing with things in the summertime so that less goes to waste. So no waste, being realistic, and focusing on the fruit and nut trees and berries and things like that. Those are my main goals. So what are your garden goals this year? Let me know in the comments and what you're working on. And I will see you guys in the next one.